Welcome, Derek. Thank you for joining us today. I am so excited to hear you and I have known each other for quite some time. We have done a few projects together. We always meet in the community, but you are such an active member of Tacoma community, and this conversation is focused to let people know what we are, who we are as a community in Tacoma, what work is going on here. And I am very excited to talk to you about your work as a filmmaker and specifically about the Tacoma project that you're working on currently. But before we start, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Uh, yeah, as you mentioned, I'm a filmmaker from Tacoma, born and raised here in Tacoma. Well, Seattle, born in Seattle, raised in Tacoma since I was 2 years old. But yeah, there's I joined the industry by way of going to Los Angeles, and then coming back to Tacoma, it was always the ambition because there was such a wealth of uh, culture and just different experiences, and just me growing up here, I had no idea how much it informed me as a storyteller, as an artist. Uh, so the times when I was away, I would come back to visit. I would always see this place with new eyes, see the community, see the environment, see the locations, the iconic landmarks and staples in the community. Like seeing these places, I've always found with different eyes, and I saw like different stories. And now we're in this place with streaming, and and all these different avenues and different ways of getting stories out. It's there's no shortage of opportunity. Means like no shortage of which is what Tacoma offers in terms of just uh, like I said, it's a wealth of different stories and from different
Hmm.
perspectives, different backgrounds that historically we didn't have the opportunities to tell these stories or the means sometimes, or even just no one was really looking at the Pacific Northwest, but now they are. Uh,
Yeah.
so I just think it's just a cold, meet my return and just coming back and wanting to express, my love for the city that, you know,
Hmm.
uh, and all of these things. I think it's just like a nice, like correlate, you know, coalescing of just everything coming together at the right time. And I'm just happy to be a part of this movement in this way.
Hmm. So you grew up in Tacoma and then you went to LA for work and then you came back to Tacoma?
Yes, yeah, yeah. So uh, I left in 2008, and at the time when I left, there wasn't, you know, there wasn't much of a community, at least to my knowledge. So for me, the logical move was just going down, I-5 to Los Angeles and joining the community there. I did that, working in the industry, all the way up into the studio system. Uh, you know, did that for about 15 years before moving back. But like I said, in the times in between during holidays or summer vacations or whatever, I would come back home and knowing how things were done, where I was living and working, uh, I saw, you know, places that I grew up in my old stomping ground. I saw them with different eyes, knowing what could be. Because now I know how to do it. Well, we could easily do that here, and it would cost a lot less. And all the, these different opportunities, these different doors that could open. Uh, you know, I reveled at the idea. So yeah, the plan was always to come back. Obviously, COVID changed a lot of everyone's plans, so it definitely accelerated my plans. So I did. I hadn't planned to move back when you know when we did, uh, but it seems serendipitous because of what's been happening. You know, uh, since not my move, but like around that same time, how we're all kind of recovering from the pandemic and the world's kind of this resurgence of just artistry and culture and what people wanting to create more and to do more and be around each other in a different way, in a better way. I think it's a really great time to be a part of this wave or this movement. I don't really know what this is, but yeah, I love that it's happening.
Yeah. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. There's so much happening in Tacoma. And depending on where we come from, I came from India. So I could
Mhm.
see, from a very unique perspective, how amazing Tacoma is and the potential of Tacoma. But talk about your project. I know you have done lots of filmmaking here. You're very engaged in the community. You are also on the board of the Grand Cinema, which is our wonderful cinema here in Tacoma. But talk to me about your projects. What are you currently working on, and what inspired you to do that project?
Uh, so yes, so we have a number of different projects that we had in the past that were going to be taking place in California. Now they're going to be taking place here in Washington. So just kind of figuring out how to transfer some of those projects up here. But there was one in particular, an anthology project called Grit and Destiny. Uh, yeah, that we we wanted to do, and that really not only showcased the city, but highlighted the city and what it has to offer, but really showcased what you know yeah, really, I guess that is it. It showcases what the city has to offer. Uh, just, from a tourism perspective, from a filmmaking and storytelling perspective, just from a genre. And, Washington State is one of the most beautiful states in the country, if not the most beautiful. But we have all just, all the different geographies, mountains and beaches, and even just the city of Tacoma had so much of that in and of itself. So I wanted to tell this story where, you know, over a number of episodes where we're showing different sides of the city, and we're showing the people in the communities and the history that make the city what it is, and doing it in a narrative way to where each story that we tell is maybe a different genre or a different style or tone. And we really have fun with, you know, having them take place at different landmarks, the historical landmarks, and these places, Frisco Freeze, or Chinese Reconciliation Park, or Bob's Java Jive, or like these different places in Old Town, or Opera Alley downtown, where there's this history of theater and all of these things that a lot of people may not know, but telling these history of places like Hilltop, uh, and the Lincoln District, the International District, like how these places came to be, the cultures and the people that make these places what they are. And yeah, doing that across a number of episodes. So we've already are in pre-production to shoot two of them this spring, kind of like back to back, and we want to just be shooting all throughout the summer. So hopefully by sometime this year we'll have a complete project. But uh, we're just enjoying the process and enjoying like how the city responds when we go out and we do this pre-production, and how everyone's responding to the energy. It's just like I said, it's just a great time to be here, and be a working artist.
So tell us a couple of favorite places of yours in Tacoma. You have mentioned so many, and they're all so different. Some of them are very historical, like Reconciliation Park. There's such a there is so much history there, but also compassion and the intention to look back in the history, 140 years ago, all the
Mm-hmm.
terrible thing that happened. And for us as a community to look at that past and say that was a bad thing that happened, we won't let that happen again, and we
Mm-hmm.
will bring the community together. We'll do the reconciliation walk. That was something that we do not want ever to be repeated. That's one part of our community. That's one sort of the intention of the community is to look back. But then we also have something very creative, Opera Alley that you mentioned. It has such an amazing history. It
Yeah.
is so amazing and it's so bizarre in so many ways. And it's also just so fascinating, how that whole place came into being,
Mm-hmm.
just initiative of a small group of people. And at the time when they were thinking, it was not easy to imagine what they imagined back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
It was not an easy place to be. There were all kinds of crime in that area, and they imagined a very creative space, which now have, their vision is in full bloom. But talk about some of your favorite places in Tacoma.
Well, I love the places like that. It's anything time you have like a little pop of color in the architecture. It just brightens up the city, and just really the overall, I don't know, quality of life. Almost sometimes it feels like they say, Copenhagen, Denmark is a place where they have one of the highest quality of life, because like in large part because of their architecture and just what people get to see. So I just love areas like that. Opera Alley, I love that spot. I love um, really 5 Mile drive, Point Defiance. Just being out in nature, it's like having your own little rainforest right there in city limits. Sometimes you just be on a hike and get, you know, you're there, you're very much in the city, but you feel so removed because you just immersed. It's just nature all around you. You see the hiker or a jogger or a cyclist, might pass you by, or someone else who your other your other fellow nature lover. But in large part, it's a nice uh, place to just kind of step away and just really be immersed in nature. And I love that, especially the different times of year. You can see how it is in the rain and when it's cold in the summer, like and then the great sunsets over there because you're on Point Defiance, so in the peninsula. So yeah, I really love that spot. Uh, yeah, and anywhere along that, along the Narrows, it's a great Fitlow Beach, and down all the way down to Chambers. Just some great vistas, man, and some really amazing views, and just something I didn't, I knew was cool, and but didn't fully appreciate growing up. Didn't really fully appreciate it all that much, and then you come back and you just kind of stand there and all, and you just kind of, you know, it's a beautiful place to live, and it has, so many different cultures. I love South Tacoma Way, especially when you get down international, all the different cultures and cuisines, and different shopping marts, Powder World, and the H marts, and the different shopping those grocery stores. I'm excited for the Majamaya that's going to be coming. I'm really excited for that. Just get a variance of my shopping. I get to buy some different stuff. That's going to be really exciting. I wonder if I can film something there. I'm pretty sure. Looking forward to doing something there. But yeah, those were just off the top of my head. I guess those are some places I
Mhm.
really enjoy.
And Derek, you have spoken about so many different places, and they are very different in the sense that the way they look, the kind of vibes they have. So Point Defiance, 5 Mile is very green, lush, quiet, lots of trees and nature. Whereas if you go to South Tacoma Way, it's completely very community driven, lots of people
Mm-hmm,
getting together, lots of music coming together, lots of events happening. Downtown, same way, farmers market, so many different vibes. But something about the sound in Tacoma, there are so many different kinds of
mm-hmm,
sounds. So if you, on any random day, you just drive around or you walk around, uh, Tacoma, you will hear the sound of trains. Trains are
mm-hmm,
passing by all over. And then you
mm-hmm,
can hear birds. There are birds chirping all the time. You can look up in the sky and you will almost always see Canadian geese flying in that V formation, and
mm-hmm.
they talk to each other and they make sound. So
Right,
talk
indeed.
about the sound of Tacoma. Do you pick something? Is there something in particular uh, that sticks with you about Tacoma sounds?
This is gonna sound, uh, to speak the sound, but this may. I don't know how this is gonna sound, but I grew up on the hilltop, and we were like in the flight path of like the military. When they would come around the land, they would usually turn around us. So just those jets and just the bombers, how they would just scrape through the sky. It almost sounds like they're tearing or ripping apart of the atmosphere. It was just that that distinct sound, and and they're going faster than sound, so that way there's that delay, so you would often hear them before you would see them, or see them, and I just remember that being very, very distinct, just pausing their conversation to kind of let that moment pass because the sound was so loud. I like that. I love the train. I love hearing the train. We stayed in Stadium District for some years, and you'd always hear the train go by, and you always tune your watch to it on certain days because it would always come by around the same time, or the ferries, especially when the mist is over the sound. They can't see, so they have to blow their horns to let them know they're approaching that. So that horn from the port, shipping can ships with all the containers. So that's like I love that one, and yeah, I'm trying to think of anything like very distinct. Very distinct. I mean, we grew up with chicken, so hearing the rooster crow in the morning was always, but that's one a little more personal, I guess, more personal to me than I guess distinct to Tacoma. But no, that's a really great. I really enjoy it. And one thing I really enjoy that I didn't, I guess I hadn't thought about is the fact that I more often than before I'm hearing more language. I'm often around more uh, than just English. and just being so comfortable with that. I remember just thinking even earlier today how I was like, I love where they decided in this place to where we can just casually play K-pop in a grocery store. There was just K-pop. Was just I was in a grocery store and K-pop was playing. I was like, I like it. We're in this place in society where like
Yeah.
we're just playing that. So
Yeah, and we are a
it's a
pretty
great question.
diverse, and there's a lot of diverse, community. On any given day, you can go to a grocery shop and you can, just going back to the idea of sound, you hear different languages. People talk.
Hmm.
There are a decent amount of Vietnamese population, Cambodian population. We have a pretty robust and very active Latin American community. We don't have a very robust South Asian, but we still have, there are a couple of 2 or 3 Indian restaurants that you can go and hear.
Yeah.
And India has so
Hmm.
many different languages. You can go there and listen to people talk to different languages, even though they are all from the same country. And that adds so much of character to our city. But talk about your background. How did you get into filmmaking and what inspired you to become a filmmaker?
Well, it wasn't really. It was always like arts, the arts, the stage. Um, in the '90s, film wasn't really an attainable, you know, aspiration. It wasn't really anything that anyone did, especially no one, locally. So like I didn't know anyone who knew anyone who did it. So it wasn't something that you got of doing. But it was just, we're always outgoing kid. I was a middle child of a lot of boys, a lot of boys. Bit of a class clown. So it was like theater was like an outlet, sports were an outlet. And then it got to the point to where, the idea of being able to do something like this was somewhat feasible. It's like, oh, I can actually go to a film school that charges way too much and I can learn some stuff. But it's like if I do it in this environment, maybe I have a higher chance of, moving quicker. So that's kind of what I did. And yeah, I thought I wanted to act, but really it was behind the camera. It was, my path was behind the scenes, and I realized, you look at the breadcrumbs of life, kind of like in hindsight, all the things that lead you to a place, or I guess kind of lead you to, especially when in terms of passion. Uh, uh, I guess I was always telling stories in one way, shape, or form. I was always telling something, you know. And when it came time to tell stories at family gatherings, you had your storytellers, and uh, yeah. So, but realizing, I remember one of the moments that like kind of broke my brain was realizing that films, for the most part, especially in the '80s and '90s when I was watching them, uh, they were done one scene at a time, one camera at a time. One shot, one camera. And I remember that realization breaking my brain. I was realizing how meticulous it was and how long it takes and like how detailed. I was like, well, you need to doing this one at a time. They're not just using 5 cameras and just film it all. They're like, no, it's one shot at a time. And I couldn't wrap that. I couldn't wrap my brain around that concept. So I just figured. I just like I remember I had to figure out how to do this. How did they do this? How did they? I didn't know more. And luckily, DVDs became a thing, and then special features. I would always buy the 2 disc versions just so I could have the second, the special, a whole disc with the special features. They don't really do that anymore. I guess you can find some behind the scenes in like YouTube, but behind the scenes isn't really like people know now. Everyone's too cool now. Everyone knows how the sausage is made. So, but I remember it just fascinated me, and I realized I had to be a part of it. So my first day on a real set was like, you know, I, I was I was so excited. Yeah, I couldn't contain myself. I knew that I wanted to do that for the rest of my life. So
But is there a moment when you thought, okay, I'm a filmmaker now? Is this something that you achieved or
mm,
something you did or some one project after which you just started calling yourself filmmaker as part of your interaction?
great question. Huh? That's a really good question. Maybe maybe when I got, yeah, I think it was on set. That's actually a really good question. On set for a film and uh, I was the boom operator. I was just holding the boom pole, just hanging up there doing the thing. And we're in between takes, in between shots. And I think I was talking to the director or I was talking to some of the crew. We were talking about something. And me, I'm a nerd. I will sit inside the house and watch a film 4 times, twice with the commentary, audio player, I, I'll sit and I'll rewatch a movie and then pause. And so when I get around other filmmakers, I would like to think that uh, that passion, I kind of exude some of that passion. So I guess the director kind of overheard some of our conversation and kind of interjected, and he and I struck up a friendship. Um, and I remember him validating like my passion. I can't remember exactly what was said or how he did it, but I remember him like letting me know I knew my stuff. He's like, yeah, you know your stuff, like, and or at least I was on the right track or whatever path I was on. And just saying that, and this is the movie that he's currently directing. We're currently filming this, and the director of it is telling me that I know my stuff. And I just remember that moment. I'm like, okay, this maybe I got something there. Maybe I am a filmmaker. Maybe I do know maybe my ideas aren't just cool ideas. Maybe there's something else. So remember that moment, just getting that, little nudge or that little subtle "I believe in you" or was enough for me.
Yeah, and those small validations by people who we admire or who we see in the position of, who are creators, and then they say something about it matters so much, especially when we are young. We are so
Absolutely.
those one or two lines or one sentence or one email or one text message, they stay. I think a lot of people underestimate those, but those are life changing. They can change the
Hmm.
direction of our life. They completely change our energy levels, the confidence in us. But one thing that, that also does very similar thing, and we are part of this Road to Tacoma Lit Fest,
Hmm.
are books and what we read. Uh, so talk about some of your favorite books or generally, what do you read? What do you like reading?
But I'm I have to dip. I'm such a storyteller. I have to occasionally force myself to read something fiction because I love gaining knowledge. I love reading things in a nonfiction. So it's like, you know, yeah, spiritual, religious books and just how people philosophical stuff. Um, like Aristotle, I'm always like trying to like dissect or books that talk about why we tell stories and like humanity. Things that just connect me to. From like I'm so firmly in that I have to pull myself to um, and like just the narrative world is so fascinating. Like how we come up with the stories that we tell and why we tell the stories we tell. I often find myself more fascinated with that than the stories themselves sometimes. But I love the big thematic ones. The J.R.R. Tolkien's. The these wild these epics and these sci-fi novels, these fantasy novels. I'm constantly finding myself returning to those. Uh, uh, Lion Witch in the Wardrobe and stuff like that. Uh, but yeah, it's mostly uh, because I really want to write a novel. That's honestly where this is heading. I guess uh, a science fiction. I have like the stories that I want to tell. It's just I don't know taking the initiative. I don't know what the first step is. Like page one, you just start going. I don't know, but um, yeah.
And I know that you also read a lot about filmmakers, and
Hmm.
you admire some of the filmmakers. So you and I have spoken about them. And when I came to your studio, they were all the posters and all the
Hmm.
little cards you had about and books you had about film history. Who are some of your favorite filmmakers?
Uh, yeah. Well, this is gonna sound like a list of cliches, so just bear with me. But well, especially now, I will say this: Alfonso Cuarón has been one of my favorites. for a very long time. Yeah, for a very long time, and just consistently, you know, I love how he has his style, his distinct style, where you know that it's his film, but the themes from which stories he tells, they're so wide ranging. I never would have expected anything like Galaxy to come, or Gravity, excuse me, Gravity to come from him, and just being a part of that experience, to experience that. Uh, just incredible. He's just a master of storytelling and like just visual storytelling, not using dialogue, but like using like the camera and the actor and the space to tell a story. He's just a master of that. I love that. Denis Villeneuve as well. Um, uh, just like using you know, epic sounds and just wide. I love his scale. Scale. Obviously, Spielberg, he's a master, man. Just blocking and staging, where he puts his actor and how he moves, just his movement and his directing is just top notch. When he has a great script, I mean, you can't miss. Uh, it's almost like cheating sometimes. When I heard he was doing remaking uh, West Side Story, I was like, that's like cheating. That's cheating. That's not even fair. Um, Obviously, knowing uh, uh, Tony Scott, I really love Tony Scott. Uh, Park Chan Wook, he just has a new project out. Uh, yeah, they're so uh, what's his name? Uh, John Woo. I really appreciate John Woo. There's so many of them, man. Filmmakers. I mean, he's directed some stuff, but we don't see him as a director. But Jackie Chan, the fact that he's done like over 50, I think over 60 movies and broken so many bones just for the love of the craft, and he's so entertaining. So such an entertainer. He's such a tremendous actor. I mean, I think he has I believe he does have an honorary Oscar just for his contributions to the art. Uh, there's so many more that I could mention, but uh, and people that I feel like I pushed the boundaries forward and things like that. But yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, yeah.
All right, we are almost at the end of the conversation, but I do want to ask you if you could invite Derek, some of the world best filmmakers to Tacoma, but you had to decide what genre they would make films on in Tacoma, what would it be?
So the filmmaker and the genre.
No, let's just assume these are some of the best filmmakers. Let's say all the top
Oh,
100 filmmakers write to you and say, Derek, we will come to Tacoma and we'll do the film. But you have to decide what they will work on. So, what genre you think you would tell them to work on?
ooh, I would say I say that everything has to have regardless of what genre it is. And I want to answer the question and just stick to the rules, but I also want to bend them. So I'm gonna stick to the rules. I'm gonna stick to the rules.
No, but
Uh,
I think your thinking is better. So what would it be? Forget the genre. What would you say? Make a rule and say, okay, you guys can come here and make whatever film, whatever genre you want to make, but it has to have what?
I feel like now we're at the point now in storytelling where audiences are so smart, man. We've seen so much. There's so much content. There's so many things we can consume and ways to
Mhm.
consume them. And I think audiences are, we catch on quicker than I think uh, we have in the past because there's so much to see. And even though we don't know what something is based on, we can watch a film that's a derivative of a movie 100 years ago. We may not know the movie from 100 years ago, but it's been redone so many times. We've seen it. We know it. So for me, in my opinion, I think modern stories are best told when they're uh, structured in the classical way, but with a twist, with some kind of genre twist. You add something to it that makes it different, even if the story is the same. Um, for example, Get Out is Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but with a horror twist. Horror, that racial aspect's already there for Guess Who's Coming to Dinner, but you add a horror twist to it. It makes it freshens it up. Avatar, Dances with Wolves, Last of the Mohicans, Fern Gully, it's all of these things, but it's with a sci-fi um, and very cutting edge technological twist to it as a hook, that hook there. So whatever story that they would come, I would say give it a genre hook. If it's a classic romance story, make it one with a horror hook or a sci-fi hook. If it's a drama, if it's a family drama about a family immigrating uh, uh, and planting their flag and their roots within a community. I love District 9. District 9 talks about apartheid in Africa, uh, in South Africa, but it's using aliens to kind of, you know, and it was an amazing film. So add a twist to it. Whatever genre you choose, add a nice little twist of genre, make it fantasy, make it sci-fi, make it horror, make it, uh, you know, something, give it something to make it a little different. And I think audiences will gravitate to it because we got a lot of spaces that and places that we can shoot some really cool stuff. So yeah,
Okay, a movie in Tacoma with a twist. That's Derek. Thank you, Derek, so much for sharing your life and your work with us. We are very excited to see your Tacoma project. Sounds very interesting, and I think the format that you have chosen, serials, not just one, but series,
hmm
that is so apt for Tacoma, given the diversity we have and the kind of community we have here. It can't be done in one episode. We need multiple. So all the best, and thank you
yeah.
so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much, man. Appreciate you saying.